going to start looking at the academics and degree structure, how the actual teaching and assessment is done in both countries. We're going to talk about course lengths and different costs. We're going to get deeper into applications and the admissions process. We're going to talk about profile building, or what steps you could start doing now to help prepare your students to be, your children to be successful candidates. We're going to look into student life and campus experience. I've added in a section on career prospects and work opportunities because that was something that somebody requested in the form that I sent out. We'll conclude with how to make the right choice, and I'll leave some time at the end for Q&A. But if you have any questions throughout, feel free to raise your hand or pop something into the chat. So, starting with the academics. The biggest difference between the UK and the US systems is how the degrees are structured. So in the UK, students commit to a specific subject from the start, while the US, it offers a more flexible approach. So in the UK, students really need to know what they want to study because they apply directly for that. So they apply directly for a specific degree, whether it's law, medicine, engineering, psychology, or whatever. And once they're accepted, their coursework and all of the courses that they're going to be taking are highly focused on that subject, and there's very little room for unrelated courses. They might have one or two electives, but it is not very common. So, for example, a student that is studying biology will mainly take biology-related courses with very minimum general education requirements. On the other hand, the US follows what is called a liberal arts model, which means that students take a variety of courses before specializing. There are general education requirements that all students have to take, and this varies from university to university. So this means that even a science major will take classes in humanities or social sciences or even arts. I've seen one university in the US that actually has all students take a course on sustainability and social injustice, even if they're not studying anything related to this. Okay, give me 1 second. How about now? Can you hear me a little bit better now? Okay, thank you very much for telling me. Okay, any other issues, just please let me know. So, the US. Sometimes students can actually decide what they want to study or declare what the US calls their major later on. This can even be in their second year in some cases. And in the US, it's not uncommon where students have double majors or double minors, and they don't necessarily have to be related to each other. So a student can be studying computer science, but then they have a minor in music. And then they can take classes from both. This is an advantage of the liberal arts model, which is a broad curriculum where students get more choices, whereas in the UK, it's very, very specific. So it's great for students who are certain about their career path and they want to specialize early and they know that this is what they would like to do. But on the other hand, the US is ideal for students who want to explore different subjects before deciding what it is that they want, or if they want to study many different things at the same time. So question for you to reflect on is, if your child is already certain about what they want to study, or do they need time to explore different options? This is a key factor in choosing between the two systems. So Beyond the degree structure, how students learn and are assessed also varies differently between the UK and the US. And this impacts what kind of academic environment that your child will thrive in. In the UK, most universities focus on independent learning. Students have fewer contact hours with their professors and are expected to manage their own workload. Lectures and seminars are common, but there is less hand holding for the most part. And the main assessment is through end of year exams or major research products. In contrast, the US universities have a more interactive approach, and classes usually involve discussions and group projects and more professor-student engagement. And students are assessed throughout, so their final grade would be based on essays, quizzes, midterms, and even participation and attendance, as well as an exam component, but that could be worth maybe 20 or 30% of their whole grade, not unlike the UK, where you could have a subject or a course that the final exam is worth 70%. So this means that if students go to the US, it means that they have more opportunities to improve their grade rather than just relying on one final exam. There's pros and cons to each. The UK system is great for students who prefer working independently and who perform well under final exam pressure, whereas the US system is more suitable for those who do better on continuous assessment and enjoy a more interactive classroom environment. So this is for you to think about. And how does your child learn best? Do they thrive in a system with ongoing and regular feedback, or do they prefer working independently and then proving themselves in a final exam? Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's very, very personal, and it depends on each student's personal learning preference. Everyone's favorite topic, which is the costs. So one of the biggest practical differences is how long the degree takes. UK degrees are typically 3 years. Scotland might be 4. But most US degrees take 4 years in order to complete. And again, some might be a little longer. Med school, medicine, for instance, in both cases is much longer. Tuition fees are always a major consideration for families, and understandably so. The UK most times have lower tuition because it's shorter, but this is a case by case basis. Like, you can find some universities in the US that are less expensive than one in the UK. So there's a huge difference in fee structure. But the US, on the other hand, does offer more financial aid opportunities. On the other hand, private universities in the US, they can get quite expensive, but many students do tend to receive scholarships or grants. For UK passport holders, there is the possibility of qualifying for home fees, which significantly reduces tuition down to £9,000 per year. But whether a student is eligible for home fees depends on residency, and each university has the right to decide if they will offer a student home fees status or international fee status. And to a large extent, it depends on residency, where the official rule is that if students have not lived in the UK for a set period, which is usually 3 years before starting university, they may be classified as international students. However, there have been cases where students have been living abroad and they did qualify for home fees by making a case for the university. So if this is a case for anybody on this call, if you or your children have a UK passport and would like to learn more about home fees, please contact me separately for that, because there have been success stories in the past. For the US, in-state tuition at public university can be significantly lower than out-of-state or private universities. But similarly, simply having a US passport does not automatically qualify a student for in-state tuition. Many states do require families to show proof of tax payments or residency for a certain period before giving them in-state status. If a student is considering a state university and they have an American passport, please do check the specific residency requirements. Checking them as early as possible is essential. And also please contact me if this is the case for any of your children. Beyond tuition, it's very important to also consider the cost of living. In both countries, location matters. So a student living in a bigger city like London or New York will have higher expenses than one in a smaller city. And there's other factors to take into account, such as rent, transport, daily expenses. They can vary differently depending on where they are. And other living costs include accommodation, food, daily expenses, health insurance in some cases, transport, especially if as parents you are staying in Dubai and your child is going on their own, then you will need to allocate a budget for international flights, because they're not just going to go for 3 or 4 years and never come back, because they're going to want to come back and forth. So it's important to take that into consideration. For students who want to work part-time alongside their studies, UK universities allow international students to work up to 20 hours per week. Whereas in the US, international students are generally limited to on-campus jobs. So we can see them working in the library. You can see them doing campus tours in the gift shop, for instance, unless they qualify for specific work permits. I'm going to branch off from doing a comparison, and I'm going to talk about the application and admissions process separately for each. So starting with the UK. The UK university admission system is very highly structured and subject specific. Unlike in the US, where students apply to a general university and then have the flexibility of choosing or switching majors, UK students apply for a specific course of study from the start. And this means that they need to have a clear idea of their intended subject before applying. Universities will be looking for a strong academic profile in relevant subjects, as well as evidence of subject interest and commitment. So for example, if a student wants to study medicine, their application will be assessed based on A-level subjects, specifically biology and chemistry, predicted grades in those subjects, and their third A-level. They would need to take an entrance exam, draft a personal statement, and then some universities will ask for an interview. Another example is for a subject like engineering, universities will expect a background in math and physics. So students would need to take math and physics during their A-levels. So the key takeaway here is that subject choice at school matters significantly, specifically when applying to UK universities. All applications go through a portal called UCAS. And the thing is, you only get 5 choices on UCAS. So it's very important to have research done in advance, because you do get only 5 choices, except for medicine. Medicine, you're only allowed to apply to 4, and then your 5th option can be medicine related, such as biomedicine or biochemistry, for example. The earliest applications deadlines are for the 15th of October. Those are usually Oxford, Cambridge, medicine, dentistry, and vet school. Rest of the deadlines are the 31st of January, and then the final deadline is the 30th of June. So the UK universities primarily assess students based on their A-level or BTEC results. And this is the biggest determining factor in which a student receives an offer or not. Universities will always publish their specific grade requirements on their websites. So for instance, if King's College London, for example, wants for their law program, they can ask for 3 A stars at A level. And this is usually the minimum entry requirement for students to apply. But even if they have these grades, it's not always guaranteed that they will be accepted. Some more competitive courses will ask students to take additional tests. So for medicine, students will need to take the UCAT. Oxford and Cambridge will also have their various different types of admissions tests. In addition to their predicted grades, which we send as a school, students will write a personal statement. For the UK, this is going to be one essay that goes to all universities. And this is why they need to be sure of the subject that they're going to be studying, because if they want to study psychology, then they want to write one psychology essay that goes all to the universities they want to apply to. And this is why planning early is essential. The personal statement is a very important part of the application. I guide students through it all, and I tell them what they need to do, and they show me drafts, and we go through it 100 times. And it's submitted to all university choices. And the UK personal statement is almost entirely academic. It basically answers, why do you want to study this subject? What have you done outside of the classroom to explore this field? And what relevant skills and experience make you a strong candidate? So for example, a student who's applying for law, they shouldn't just say, oh, I like arguing and debating, but they should provide evidence of academic interests. So examples that they have read case studies, participated in a mock trial, or done a work experience at a law firm. We're going to get into this in more details when we talk about profile building. So after submitting a UCAS application, universities will either make an offer. In most cases, this is conditional. So because we apply with predicted grades, because students have not sat their A levels yet, universities will reply with a conditional offer. And then the final offer is confirmed based on students getting the grade that they said they would. It is very rare to get an unconditional offer. Or number two, that the student is unfortunately rejected if they do not meet the predicted grade requirement. And since offers are often conditional based on A-level performance, students have to continue to work hard to achieve the required grades in their final exams. Once all offers are received, students then choose their firm choice, which is their first choice university, and then a backup or insurance choice, typically with lower entry requirements, just in case they don't meet the requirements for their first choice. If that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that they can't go to university. There's still other options. So if students don't meet their grades, they can enter clearing. So clearing becomes available when results come out in August. And it's when universities publish the available vacancies that they still have. And this is used by students who have missed their offers, but they still want to secure a place in university. Okay, moving on to the US. So the US also has a common application portal called Common App. More than 1,000 universities are on it, and it allows students to apply to multiple universities through one single application. But each university may require additional essays and documents. Some universities use the Coalition app, but that's not very common. Common App is more common. And other universities like MIT and Georgetown, they have their own exclusive portals. And if a university prefers that you apply directly to it, like they will say. A major difference between the US and the UK is that students can choose their major even after being admitted. And it doesn't mean that they will graduate later, because the US will have students take general education courses during the first 2 years. So a student, even if they don't know what they want to study, they can go in as undeclared, take a few courses in the first and second semester to try different things out before declaring their major. And they can still graduate in time. Another key difference is that the US universities use something called a holistic admissions approach. And I'm going to get into that into detail in my next slide. But basically, it means that they evaluate applicants beyond just their grades. So they don't focus primarily on academics, but they consider the whole student. They will look at their achievements outside of the classroom, their personality, what potential contributions they can have to the university community. They want to see what they will bring onto campus. So getting into a little bit deeper on that, so what do they look for? They do look at grades. It's not like that they eliminate them completely, and the very competitive universities will ask for a minimum grade as well. So it's not like they're automatically not looking at them at all. So they do look at A levels, at GCSEs. Strong grades matter, but in the US, they're not the only factor. Universities also assess course rigor, and they understand what A levels are. They understand that A levels are challenging. And in some cases, they see that students challenging themselves by taking the more difficult courses, it's an advantage to them. US universities love extracurriculars. They want to look for well-rounded students. So they will take into consideration any sports, music programs, volunteering, any leadership roles that the student has had, and internships and work experience as well. They all strengthen an application. Students will also need to write a personal statement, but it looks very different than one going to UK universities. So unlike the UK, where personal statements focus on academics and academic motivation, essays going to the US will focus on personal experience, character, and values, and they want to hear the student's story. In both cases, they will be asked to write, they ask for letters of recommendation. The US will ask for more. Typically, in most cases, the UK will ask for one. Some will ask for two from either a tutor, teacher, or counselor. The US will ask for more. I've seen some universities ask for three, one from a counselor and two from teachers, because they want to see different sides of the student, from inside the classroom and from outside. They want to see what they can bring to a campus. They want the insight into the students' work ethic, their personality, and leadership skills. This was also a question asked in one of the forms of a standardized test, if the SAT is still required. So most things in the university world are changing every day, okay? And like what I tell you now can change by the time that your children are applying. So as of right now, a lot of universities are now test optional, which means that the SAT is not a must, but if a student takes it, they will consider it. And I've also heard some universities say that it will be good if a student is applying for a scholarship. But again, this is a case-by-case basis. If you're considering studying in the US, please let me know and we'll look deeper into it of how beneficial is it. So this holistic approach to admissions, it basically means that even if students are not good test takers, or if they don't have the highest grades, their profile can still stand out if they have strong extracurriculars, if they've wrote compelling essays and they have leadership experiences. So unlike UCAS, which mainly considers academics, US universities are interested in what kind of person you are, how you think, how you contribute to your school, and the community. So this approach, it can be an opportunity as well as a challenge, because it allows students to highlight their strengths beyond just academics, but it also requires more preparation compared to UK applications. So unlike UCAS, where all applications more or less follow the same timeline, US universities have different deadline categories. The first one is early decision. This deadline is usually in October and November, to be more specific. And early decision is binding. So if a student applies to a university, early decision, and they get accepted, it means they have to go. They make the student sign, they make you as parents sign, they make me as a school sign. So yeah, we usually save this for the top choice or the reach school or the dream university, which means, so we apply early, you get in, you know that this is the one that you want to go to. Early action is applying early as well. This is also around November, but it allows students to receive decisions early, so just they know that they're accepted, but they can still continue to apply elsewhere. And then regular decision is the most common deadline, typically in January, and decisions are released around March, April, but some students are starting to receive their replies now, so this is flexible. And then rolling admissions is basically first come, first served. A university that says that they accept rolling admissions basically means that they review applications as they come in. So if they have 50 spots for a program, the first 50 applications that get accepted and that they like, they'll take in, and then the rest, they're done for that. So entry requirements will vary by university and depends on the program. Each university will publish what their minimum is, and if they need specific grades. It's usually more common in the UK, but some universities will set their own criteria. A lot do look at grades, which is based on students' academic performance in high school. They will look at GCSEs, and more than the UK. Some UK universities will have the right to ask for GCSEs. For most cases, they tend to prioritize A levels, but more universities in the US will look back at not just A level performances, but they will ask from year 10 upwards. But again, case by case basis. So for international students, yes, universities evaluate A-level or GCSEs. SAT used to be required everywhere, but now some have gone test optional. But now, as of a few weeks ago, some universities are asking for it back. So case by case basis and changing every day. So the rigor of a student's course load is important. US universities like to see students who have challenged themselves. So in a lot of cases, if they see a student applying with A levels, it's more preferable than a student applying with BTECs. Supporting documents that they will need is the Common App personal essay, where students talk about their personal growth challenges or unique experiences, and it's more of a storytelling narrative. I coach students through it as well. I tell them how to do it, and then they show me a draft, and we go over it 100 times. Some universities will also require supplemental essays. So in addition to the general Common App essay that goes to each one, some universities will ask for extra ones that are just specific to them. Usually they have specific prompts like, why do you want to study at this university? Letters of recommendations are mandatory. In most cases, they require 2 from a teacher, 1 from me, and they highlight all sides of the student, their academic strengths, their leadership, and their personal characters. And again, US universities highly value extracurriculars, and students need to submit an activities list, which shows what they've achieved in sports, music, volunteering, and internships. Some schools, some universities, I mean, might ask for English proficiency for non-native English speakers. However, and this is the case in the UK as well, and even if the UK, the university doesn't ask for it, students might need to do an English proficiency to apply for the student visa. But in both cases, like sometimes universities will accept a letter from the school saying that this student has been studying for 12 years in English and we are an English speaking school, therefore they do have the minimum English proficiency for them to study in English. Some of this is acceptable and they'll take that as an English proficiency, so students don't need to take the TOEFL or IELTS. Some universities will accept GCSE English. If a student scores a 4 and above, they'll take that as proof that they can study in English. So that's something that we can try to do. I can try to do by communicating with the university so we can make the English proficiency go away. We could try. Like the UK, decisions are based on predicted grades because students will not have sat their A levels at the time of applications, but they will need to see the final transcript before a student enrolls. If a student's results are lower than expected, universities do have the right can you hear me? Mr. Rishi?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah? Okay. Thank you. So, where was I? Yeah. So if a student is predicted, for instance, AAB, but then they get all Bs, universities do have the right to take back their offer, but it's not necessary that this happens. Sometimes they'll take the students anyway, unless there's like a drastic drop in their grades. Types of decisions: a student is either accepted to the university. If they're applying for early action, sometimes they can be, excuse me, I'm just trying to get someone. Yeah. If a student is applying for early action, or early decision, they may be deferred to regular decision. Sometimes students can be waitlisted, which means that they're not admitted, but may receive an offer later if a spots become available. And some cases, unfortunately, not everywhere we apply we will get accepted to. But if a student is denied, that means they can't apply for the same intake, but maybe they can apply the year after. So now that we've talked about what each university's system is looking for, I want to talk about how you can prepare, or how students can start preparing for, or how they can build their profiles for each system. So because UK universities, they focus heavily on academics, grades and predicted scores are the most important factor. To build their profile, students should engage in subject-related enrichment. So this includes super curriculars. So there's a difference between super curriculars and extracurriculars. Super curriculars are subject related. So if a student wants to study politics, for instance, this is doing MUN, reading articles, attending lectures, attending summer schools, doing extra research and listening to podcasts. There are so many resources available at the school. Please let me know if this is something that you are looking for. Students can attend summer schools. I have lots of connections if this is something that you're looking for. Engaging in reading, podcasts, academic books, research, as well as MOOCs. So MOOCs stands for Massive Online Open Course, or Massive Open Online Course. I mix the two O's. Basically, it is universities offer online courses that students can take for free. A great website for this is Springpod. Never too early. Answering the question in the chat, when do you recommend for them starting to do this? Never too early. I actually have some students in year 7 and 8 who they're like, Miss, I want to be a doctor. And I'm like, okay, sweetie, let's get you into med school. So it really depends on how old your son or daughter is and making sure that what they do is age appropriate. If they're in primary at this stage, I would encourage exploration and keeping options open as much as possible. As students get older though, so years 9 and above, they really should be engaging more in profile building. Something else is work experience. So we have this built into our school. All of our year 12s went out for an internship week last month. And students who want to do internships over the summer or during breaks, just let me know and I'd be more than happy to help them find something related to what they want to study, or even if it's not, if they just want the experience. Additionally, students should start realizing if they need additional tests. Typically, these are for medicine and law. And then in their final 2 years, they should start preparing for that. And the personal statement is something that students work on with me during years 12 and 13. For the UK, it is all about why this course, and it should demonstrate passion and readiness for the subject. For the US, because they prefer a more holistic approach, it means students need to show their strengths beyond academics. So in this case, engage as many extracurriculars as possible. And extracurriculars can be a great way for students to learn more about themselves. And it doesn't need to be subject specific. So it can be different kinds of clubs, sports, student council, volunteering. They can engage in passion projects like starting an initiative or trying to publish or organizing community events. All of these things help build a profile for an application going to the US. For the personal statements, the US applications, again, they want to see students reflect on their values, experiences, and personal growth. So a bit about student life. UK universities, like we said, emphasize independent learning, and this means that students have fewer contact hours with their professors, and they're expected to study extensively outside of class. Universities in the UK are either city-based, or so in a major city like London, for instance, or they are campus-based, so in more suburban or rural areas. Most students typically live in a hall of residence for their first year, and then they move on to private housing with friends that they've made in their first year. Accommodation costs can definitely vary, whether it's a big city in London or a smaller university town. Student unions and society play a big role, and so many universities have so many things, different clubs and societies that are academic and cultural and recreational that students can get involved in. I was in a conference last week with universities in Scotland, and they were saying how they have over 200 clubs and societies, including an equestrian club, even though they have no horses on campus. There was a Middle East and North Africa society, and they even told me that they have a Taylor Swift society. So there will be something for everyone in different campuses. And if social life, because it is a huge important part of students' journey, students will always find things on their website, as well as they can get in touch with the university itself to find out more about what it offers. Holidays in the UK are usually shorter than the US. And most UK degrees, like they have fewer assignments throughout the year, but a lot of the grades is going to be based on the final exam. So the US, on the other hand, has a broader community. Students take general education courses in the first 2 years before they specialize. And classes are more structured with continuous assessment. Most universities have residential campuses where students live on site. Some universities will guarantee housing for the first year. Some will say we guarantee housing for 4 years. And the advantage of that, it really gives students that close-knit campus feeling. There are as well going to be many opportunities for students to get involved in different sororities, fraternities, clubs, student government societies as well. Many universities will sometimes have a meal plan system where students eat at dining halls. The academic calendar often has longer holidays, which allows for students to do internships or travel. And assessment is more frequent, not just relying on final exams. This was a question that someone asked in the form that I had out of what happens after my son or my daughter finishes university. So the UK has a post-study work visa that allows international students to stay in the UK and work for 2 years after graduation. Again, this is of right now. Laws, of course, are always subject to change. A lot of UK degrees are career-oriented or vocational, and they have internships embedded into them. Some universities offer what is called sandwich courses that includes a year-long work placement, and this makes graduates more employable. International students are allowed to work up to 20 hours per week during term time and full-time during holidays. But how on-campus jobs are limited compared to the US. So you would see them working in other places outside of the university. The UK job market has changed post-Brexit, and it means that international students, they may face tighter work visa regulations in some industries. Certain fields do require accreditation to work in the UK, usually medicine, law, psychology, and education. So, for example, a psychology degree in the UK has to be accredited by the British Psychological Society for graduates to become chartered psychologists. I always encourage students, and we go through this together, is they need to check whether their degree qualifies them for licensing in their desired country of work. Again, politics plays a part in this, so this is very likely to change, but as of right now, there's an OPT program in the US that allows international graduates to work for up to 12 months after completing their degree, but graduates from STEM schools, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, they can extend their OPT for up to 3 years. Lots of universities have career centers where they will help organize career fair internships and alumni networks, as well as connecting students with industries to help them get a job after graduation. There's more on-campus jobs available. So international students, they can work on campus for up to 20 hours per week during work time. And lots of US universities, they have built-in work-study programs. And again, some professional degrees, they do require US-specific licensing, which means that if a student graduates from one program in the US, but they want to work somewhere else, they might need to take an additional exam. So for instance, a psychology program in the US, it has to be accredited by the American Psychological Association, but this might not be valid in other countries. A very common example is law degrees. Law degrees in the US, they may not transfer internationally because they're state-specific bar exams. So students should research whether the degree that they want aligns with their long-term degree goals. So I just have 2 more slides before I open up the floor for questions. At the end of the day, it's no one size fits. There isn't such a thing as one size fits all when it comes to university career counseling. Choosing between the UK and the US is a very highly personal choice, and it depends on academic strengths and preferences. Do students prefer specialization or flexibility? Finances plays a huge part. Things to think about are tuition, living costs, funding options, passport does play a role. Career goals for sure is, does the degree align with licensing requirements, and is this student planning to come back, move on somewhere else, or where would they like to live after that? And I always tell students, when you're looking at universities and choosing, you're not just choosing where you want to study, you're choosing where you want to live. So do you want a more campus focused lifestyle where you walk to class, you walk to your dorm, you walk to the gym, you walk to the supermarket? Or do you want more of an urban city vibe where there's always something going on? So key takeaways are, UK degrees are more structured, career focused, shorter. US degrees, more flexibility, broader education, and more immersive campus experiences. So next steps, or advice for families: start looking at universities, start shortlisting programs based on locations, courses, career prospects. All university websites will always have upcoming university fairs or info sessions, and they have an opportunity for you to do a virtual campus tour. If you're looking at a specific university and you want me to connect you with a rep, please do let me know. Look into internships, placement, work experience. I'm more than happy to help you organize one in Dubai or online. To make a more informed decision that this is what your child would like to study in the future. As always, please feel free to meet with me one-on-one anytime for guidance on career planning, decision making, or applications. And whatever path your child ends up going on, it's really is about the best fit, academically, financially, and personally. It is a journey, but usually in most cases a very exciting one. With that, I do want to open up the floor for questions. If anybody has anything related to anything that I talked about, or questions generally, Ms. Donia, please.
Yes, thank you for the great presentation. Now, I have a question in terms of accreditations.
Yeah.
I know more about the European system. We've seen a lot of universities losing their credibility because of the accreditation thing. So, for instance, in Europe, some universities are not accredited at the national level, which means that when the student graduates, eventually, if his degree is not accredited at the national level, that it will not be the case at the international level. When it comes to UK US accreditation system for universities, what are the things that we as parents must look for? What are the red flags, for instance, for some universities? Um, if you can just share your thoughts on that.
Okay. That's a very good question. So for red flags to look for, their graduation rate. If they don't
Mm,
have lots of graduates, if a lot of students drop out, if it's not, I try to avoid the word rankings, but if it's not very well known, okay, that would be questionable about it. It
okay.
is always a good idea. I'll give you a good web source. So there's this source called Unibuddy,
Okay.
okay, which gives you the opportunities to chat to students currently studying in this university, and it can connect you to alumni as well.
Okay. Great.
So finding out where their graduates go
Okay.
is a great way to figure it out. Officially, though, any university that is accredited will 100% have it on their website, and it's a source of pride for them. Like, they will say, we are accredited by the British Psychological Society.
Okay, so basically the accreditation system is not similar to Europe. For instance, it's not the Ministry of Higher Education within each country that issues the accreditation. It's not under, they don't work under the umbrella of ministries, just as in Europe.
Not if it's private, no.
Okay, okay, great, thank you.
No, anytime.
Mm,
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions, general or specific? Okay. Please do feel free to email me or reach out anytime if you would like to book an appointment for any one-on-one personal guidance. Um, I'm here anytime. I will share out the recording for anyone who was not able to miss it, who was not able to attend. And please reach out to me again anytime if you would like further personalized guidance. Thank you very much for your time.